Hello, my name is Yudao. I am a monk here at SokukoJi. If you are inspired by these talks and these teachings, please consider joining us for our other forums, online or in person, and also consider helping us financially. We could use your support if you are able. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to SokukoJi and joining us with looking at the Dharma and having a chance to just reflect on what is happening within us and how we take whatever happens outside of us personally. And by that, I mean, it's something that we are grabbing a hold of, pushing away, or ignoring, as if there was a solid sense of a solid person here, a person who could be hurt, a person who may be angry. And we solidify that through those three poisons: passion, aggression, and ignorance. And so I'd like to revisit the idea of passive aggressive behavior. So this is just one of the many ways we solidify the self, and one of the ways that we act out in passion, aggression, and prejudice. So what do I mean by passive aggressive behavior? So it's got passivity in it and aggression. This passive piece of it is where we are not being completely honest with ourselves and with others about how we actually feel. So we may hide the anger that might be coming up, or the resentment, or the jealousy. But instead, we act out of it aggressively. It may not look like a direct behavior because it might be the silent treatment. It might be procrastinating. It might be sarcasm. It might be a look of, what do you call it? When we're acting out in our body, our face might say one thing, but we're presenting as if there isn't a problem. But just the way our energy changes, maybe, even that might be passive aggressive. So it's where we don't want to be direct for whatever reason. And usually it's not wanting to be direct with ourselves. We're not seeing the story that we're telling ourselves. So how does this happen on the cushion? When we're looking at what moves and we see a story or we see a thought that shows up and we look away quickly, but yet there's an emotion there. And for me, one of the more recent ones is that I get angry at how difficult this is to see the subtlety of movement. So something arises and I react automatically, and it's a subtle anger. And it's usually, oh, this is too hard. This is too difficult. And I want to just throw in the towel. And all this can happen within, less than a minute, just seconds on the cushion. It can happen in our relationships. And I want to I had a perfect example today that showed up just before this talk, and it was in our meal. And I'm going to call Mayoka out on this, but it gave me a perfect example, and it was a way for me to see just how seriously I take myself. So what happens is that I cooked tonight. We had grinders and I had all the food out, and there's a few of us that all eat together normally. And Mioka very rarely comes over. He works all day long, and then he takes a nap, relaxes, eats, and then comes over just before he is in charge of being a Doan at 6 o'clock. So he's got this little rush going on every night. Tonight he came over and came into the kitchen and said he's going to eat. He didn't even say that. He just started to take food. And I saw in what came up for me was frustration or anger, or this idea that you could at least ask. But here's a perfect example where I could have said something to Mioka. Mioka does a ton of stuff around here. He's worked hard all day. I could have gone down that story, solidifying myself, solidifying the sense of self here. I could have said something to him, taking responsibility for what was showing up. But instead, I just thought, well, this is a perfect time to observe. Observe the emotions. Observe this person who feels disrespected, I guess would be the word. Observe how I'm taking this personally. Observe how I wanted to react. So I was, I think, welcoming and pointed out different foods, but at the same time, I really was caught in this I don't know, I think it was a desire to leave the kitchen was the behavior that I wanted to actually pursue, but instead I stayed there. And so passion, anger, feeling disrespect, aggression, I saw that I wanted to do something about this. And I don't know, Miyoko, would you say, did you feel anything in that whole exchange? Was there some aggression that you noticed?
No, it showed up more as, combined, showed up as surprise, I think. Cause I don't know what, I think. Yeah, I thought there was some kind of imitation going on and it came out of, meals got changed. And so then there was, and on the thread, there was a thing, oh, we're having grinders tonight. And I remembered that you said the meal had changed to another day.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, okay, this is when we go over and have grinders. And all that other stuff didn't really show up.
And so look at the story here that was going on here, and it was a perfect explanation. So I didn't say anything, which would have been taking responsibility for what shows up. But at the same time, I observed it. I received what was showing up. SokukoJi.
I just wondered, would the word you would use, feeling unappreciated or ignored, or like you're done all this work and someone's coming in and just chowing down? That was it. So how would you, as a meditator, as a monk, as a teacher, how would you recommend that one works with that kind of resentment that comes up over being taken advantage of or taken for granted? Can you say something about that?
I think we want to either observe it, which is the path I chose tonight, or be responsible for it. Talk to the individual whatever resentment, feeling unappreciated. And like tonight, if I would have said something to Mioka about what the heck you think you're doing over here, he could have said something. But your teaching is to observe. And I thought it was a perfect opportunity because I could see the emotion. I could see that there was someone who was feeling hurt, underappreciated.
So wouldn't you say, if I may enter into your Dharma talk a little bit, wouldn't you say that everyone who does something in any environment who triggers somebody else's, oh, I'm not being appreciated. They don't really know that, look at all that Mioka went through thinking, oh, this is a this and this, and this is a different day. It looks like an invitation. So and any other day he might have said, I should ask if I can come over and eat, perhaps, wouldn't you come?
Yeah.
But but you didn't know about that. So this happens constantly. So I feel, I'm going to say this to you in this situation, and you'll see how you feel about this. I feel like what you did was appropriate. That's the teaching. That's the teaching, not asking somebody all about it. Receive what happened and understand that everything is dependently arisen, and you don't know all the causes and conditions that arise in someone's triggering activity. Please.
Perfect example of the story that went on.
Yes. And then he's got his story. We don't even know about it.
But at the same time, a great opportunity to see
Well said.
how
Yes.
the story develops so quickly and the emotions flow, and it reinforces someone who's taking this personally. And
Is there
something so
anyone,
small.
is there anyone in here that you haven't done that with?
Have not felt resentment?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure I've felt resentment for everybody.
Okay.
I don't know about Shui Wu. Still learning her name. Shui Wu. I can't think of anything there, but definitely Erlam.
How about Sokuzan?
And Sokuzan.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
I wouldn't be doing my job if you
And so I think this is just one behavior that can show up on the cushion and can show up off the cushion. And the idea is that because it's so particular, this passive aggressive response, it's a common human response, that it gives us a chance to see the poisons in action and see the solidity of a person who is hurt, disappointed, angry, and usually there's some sort of resentment in that action. On the cushion, we're watching what moves. And Sokuzan says it's not the content that's important, it's the movement, seeing the movement. But sometimes the movement is so subtle. We don't see that something has arisen and we immediately respond to that. So what movement are we looking at? Are we looking at what arose? Or are we looking at how we responded to whatever arose? Or are we already embroiled in a story about how we responded to what arose? And so that's where I was going with this, is that I can be quite frustrated. I want to fix. I'm a fixer type of person that sees a problem and just goes after it until it's resolved.
Any other types showing up? Type of people?
Besides being a fixer.
Fixer. Loser.
Someone who's okay with who's willing, has the ability to not be bothered by things that are broken, that can live with coffee cups in every room, half empty.
They look at it.
I do just fine with it. What's yours?
But there's no resentment here. Another one would be, we have between this building here and the building behind us, so the temple and asparagus house, there's what we call the sunshine bardo. It's an open space where someone can park, 4 or 5 cars can park, but we usually also have a picnic, and it's where Erlam grills for us. And it turns into an ice rink in the winter. And so there's a little bit of resentment in that I've been trying to fix it, and it's hard to, everybody's so busy, has so much to do, hard to get help in trying to come up with a solution for that. So there would be a little bit of resentment there, but there's really no one to be resentful of because it's an intractable problem. What else can I say about passive aggressive? I guess open up for questions at this point and help me go into this a little deeper, or any kind of behavior to help us see the poisons and see how we solidify a self. So Jasheen, thank you.
Jishun bowing. The first question which immediately came to me was, how can we, in the situations like this, apply the CCC technique which Soku-san teaches us? Bowing.
I was trying to remember the communication, cooperation, collaboration. So I was missing one of the C's. So thank you very much. It just came to me. And that's what I was saying, be responsible. And I could have said something to Miyoka, but I don't know if you heard or caught Soku-san saying, no, the teaching there was to actually be with what arose within myself. Not necessarily go out, but I would assume that that's situational. So yes, communicate, communicate, communicate. And I think that's like what you're saying there, I think, is that that's the hallmark of passive aggressiveness. We don't communicate. We don't say, this is what I need. We don't own whatever it is that we're hurt about. We don't go to the person and say, I'm frustrated right now, and what's arising me is in me is anger and resentment, and it's because this action, you took this action and it affected me this way. So taking responsibility for it. Soku-san's about to raise his hand.
So if you do go to someone and you lay your grievance about them or about the situation in front of them, and they listen and they say, I see what you're saying, and they do a good job of receiving it, but don't change or fix it or stop doing what they're so upset about, how does that show up in either passion, aggression, ignorance, or passive aggressive from the point of view of the receiver and the speaker?
So in that case, when we're communicating, we're also laying blame. We're not owning what is showing up, right? So the anger and the resentment is showing up here, and we're not owning that. We're in a conversation with somebody who we're saying, this doesn't feel good, and this is why. But if they don't change, then that's something for us to receive again. Especially if they're just receiving and not throwing it back at us. But we could really start a circular conversation unless we're completely honest and open and willing to own the feelings and thoughts that are arising in ourselves. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And does that, go ahead, Jasheen.
Jishun bowing. I'm just wondering, because recently I really started being interested in those 3 C's again. And I'm wondering, with the application of 3 C's, are we starting with accusing someone about what she or he did, or with some kind of clarification and invitation for communication? And in this case, if it would be the opening the door for conversation, what would be the example? What do you think? What would be the example to start the conversation like this? Bowing.
Well, with Miyoka, we lived together, so I could have easily just said to Miyoka, I'm feeling resentful, and this is why. So it could have been, quite casual. But I'm also thinking of the relationship with the teacher. So with some of the folks who have left, could they have approached the teacher and been completely honest? But if you're not honest with yourself, then how can you be honest with the teacher? How can you receive what's happening here and be responsible for it and communicate? This is what I have difficulty with. I realize that it's this person's, what's showing up in this body-mind complex. But help me, teacher. Help me understand how I can manage or deal with or continue to be part of this community, continue to have you as my teacher, and yet still have these strong feelings showing up. Go ahead, Jisheen.
Jishim Bowling. I'm wondering if Miyoka in that situation can be your teacher as anybody else. Bowling.
I think so. So, once you have a teacher, everything is your teacher. In that case, if you wanted to go and look at it more specifically, Miyoka was teaching me, giving me the opportunity to see what was arising. If I had communicated and said something to him, he could have shown me how to receive. It's hard to predict exactly. It just depends on if he said, you said that I could have this food and, reacted angrily, that would have been a teaching too. Elena.
Elena Bowing, what if Miyoka had said,
Sorry, Miyoka. I was debating on this.
Next. What if, go ahead.
this is the way I am. I don't see myself changing. I will probably do this again and it will hurt your feelings.
Beautiful communication. He told me he would have been telling me exactly where he's at, and given me the opportunity to own exactly what was showing up here. Because I would have basically been saying the same thing. This is what's showing up. I don't like it. This is what I want to do, but not much that we can do about it. I wouldn't ask him, pay me $7 because that's what we charge each other.
Next.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what if Miyoka had said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," and just bowed down to you. "I've totally offended you. I've just taken advantage of you. You work so hard here. I just can't believe I don't know how to apologize to you. I just feel so sad and heartbroken that I've done this to you. Please forgive me." What would you do?
Yes.
And then what if he'd broken in hysterical laughter afterwards? It flipped you off. Would he be a Dharma teacher?
Yes, always. As long as you have a teacher.
So I can leave then.
Yes.
Miyoka can take over, right?
No.
I'll stick around for a while until I'm fired properly.
Thank you for your teaching. Thank you for continuing to point us to observing and receiving.
Thank him.
Thank you, Miyoka, for being a good sport and letting me use this as an example tonight. And please don't pay me back.
I may not know it.
Which would be passive aggressive. So someone just gave an example of, being hurt, and that was, what's the difference between being hurt and experiencing passive aggressiveness? And so being hurt is You know, if you're just in that emotion, but if you act out of that emotion indirectly, that would be the passive aggressiveness. If the anger is coming up and you don't communicate anything about it, and yet, you know, basically say, well, I'm not going to show up there, or I'll let them figure that out, and, you know, just be quiet about it and give them the cold shoulder. That would be passive aggressiveness, and where it moves from just the emotion that's showing up to the behavior that we have not taken ownership about our own need for retribution, our need to do something so that we don't feel the resentment. Erlam has a question.
Everyone mowing. I feel like it's sometimes looked at that if we're, like in your example, blaming Milka for the resentment that they're triggering, resentment that you have already, and you're blaming them. So like, can you say anything, or do you have any experience of how like that's actually you're resenting yourself or something like that? Like what is that that's being triggered? Bowing.
Is it an existing anger that is being triggered? It's, you know, definitely, as the teaching goes, something that is already present within me that hasn't been looked at sufficiently, and it's being triggered. It's also, in this case, habituation and a learning. My family was great at doing passive aggressive interactions. So I can have many meals where we ate in complete silence, and the food was being cut real, aggressively. You can cut meat aggressively, the food was passed aggressively. There was just a ton of anger, and we all knew that my dad was angry. And we couldn't say anything or do anything. And in my case, or in the case of us kids, if we did anything out of line when that was happening, we'd get a backhand. So we were, basically just eyes down, eating in a clockwise manner, and you had to take 25 chews for each bite. He was old Navy man. And you just didn't get out of line otherwise. And so the passive aggressiveness was just part of what I grew up with. And so I'm habituated to that. That's normal for me. And that would be a normal response for me. So all that in response to your question. Did I get to what you were pointing at?
Everyone bowing. Is that sort of why I get mad at you for not screwing on the dairy cows? Because my grandpa raised his hand at me once because he dumped out something when I did that to him.
I don't know. That's yours to, and like SokukoJi says, it's not about the content. It's about what shows up, the behavior, the emotion, and have a chance to observe it.
Speaking of content, using the concepts of pride and shame, which are actually not separate from each other, but can look and act and function differently. How would you connect that with the passive aggressive situation you discussed, basically in your home situation? Because those are extremely good examples. I can relate to those myself.
So pride in terms of it created a person who was ashamed. So that's the end result of that behavior. But as you've pointed out, and I very much have observed, they're both survive in me. I am quite proud, and I am also shamed, and I go from pole to pole. Go ahead.
Just curious, where I'm coming from is did something, for instance, I don't want to pick on Milka anymore, but is something like that, does that, when that hits you and you feel some resentment, is that the pride part of it is you're being punched at in that area possibly? That's actually getting to the part of ego that is still guarded? Could you say something about
Well, it's
that?
definitely ego. I wouldn't necessarily put the word pride on it.
Try it.
So in this case here, I'm proud of cooking and
That's not the area I'm asking about.
I'm proud of how I respond. Proud of holding my tongue, proud of
Closer.
anybody help me here?
Erlon can help you.
Erlam.
Bowing. Have you ever heard of proud, like in the construction sense, like something's proud of something else? It's just sticking up just a little bit past the rest of it. Bowing.
Jishin bowing. Proud of controlling yourself? Bowing.
That's where I would go, but Sokuzan said, no, there's something more there.
Part of it, yes,
Okay.
I think so. No,
Yeah,
maybe
proud,
somebody else can help you with it.
proud of. Yeah, this is so interesting, isn't it? I mean,
So,
I find it
If I can
interesting.
help a little bit, it's not proud of. That's why most people miss it and think they're not full of pride. It's just pride. It's the final, as Padmasambhava said, it's the final Dharma gate.
It's amazing how we cannot see it. You can see it so clearly in
I
us.
don't see anything.
You see our Buddha nature.
I do not see anything. I don't see anything.
You
It's
see
not
no
a, it's not a
conclusion.
bragging point, huh?
There's no conclusions. You're completely.
You can't, if you conclude, you've covered something else.
Can anyone else see my pride in this instance? You're saying construction is some.
Help her.
Do you see it? Constructing a constructing. Jasheen has it. Go ahead, Jasheen.
Jishin bowing. I'm speaking too much, sorry. Yeah, you know, with the tone of your voice, the way you expressed all of it, I sense that you are proud of yourself, that you dealt with that situation in such a way. So, but anyway, I'm probably completely wrong.
Gotcha.
But can I ask another question, or are we continuing? I don't want to.
No, go ask another question.
I would like to return to those 3 C's because I'm wondering if we can apply them in such a way not to get to the war with someone who caused that resentment in us. If I ask myself first, am I 100% sure that he's doing something wrong or she's doing something wrong, and try to clarify and approach someone with the question about this, just saying, I don't know. For example, you probably didn't know that tonight dinner is following this kind of rule, but it's okay, it's fine. No, it's just to let you know, and that's it. And then Myoka will be extremely grateful. So Kazan said, and love you, maybe. I'm just thinking how to use those 3 C's to actually use them as preventing conflict and clarify conflict inside of us, not to start with the first C as accusation and expressing our emotions, negative emotions, which instantly starts the war. So maybe you can help me, because I'm right now on the path of trying to understand deeper those 3 C's. So it's a good example which we are bringing tonight for sure. Bowing.
Yeah, so I would, I just heard, 3 phrase fillers. Thank you very much, Sokuzan. That example of communication could easily have happened. And I think it's great to point out how I skip over any communication. And that's a perfect example maybe of maybe where Erlan was going, in that my habituation, I've been habituated to, this is where the problem is, and not necessarily communicate. I also, with your comments, am thinking of how it's not about fixing, it's about receiving. So in that communication and the way you were proposing to say something, not with an accusation, I could have received what was showing up inside of me and shared that in a non-accusatory way. Starting with just information, I think is where you were going. I don't see a right or wrong, but it's a good point that communication, effective communication, especially a communication that doesn't start with, I'm feeling angry because you did X. Yes. Thank you. Mioka.
Bowing, is there a way to look at these kind of things in a way that we're not? I don't know, something you were saying about like turning inside. If we're looking at something situationally, is there a way to just look at those characteristics, even though there are two people involved? We include that, but without turning it to ourself and our background and our personhood.
I think that's what the training our mind is all about, to see whatever arises as an emotion, not necessarily my emotion, not necessarily a story behind it that was triggered because of X, Y, or Z, but just look at it, look at what, and stay with whatever arises. Is that what you're saying? So it's not personalized.
Kabbalah, and then seeing it that way, is that looking at that pride that it's just there. It's not, but even that isn't mine or yours or, yeah. And we look at that pride.
And I think that's where the liberation is, when we can begin to see pride as not something that we need to get rid of or to fix, but that is just pride arising. And I don't have to attach a story to it. I can just notice it. Not being, if I am embarrassed by it, well, that's the next thing that arises.
Kabbalah is another way to say that is who I think I'm thinking, that pride is who I think I am.
So if we take it personally, then we're identifying with the pride. So there's an identity, there's someone who is proud. Is that where you're going with that?
Wouldn't there have to be? If pride shows up, is there a pride without somebody? And if there is, what does that look like?
So I think you've seen the video that SokukoJi just did. There are two different kinds of pride, relative and ultimate, two different kinds of confidence, relative and ultimate. And so your question is, does the relative pride need a person who is proud? And I see everything basically on a continuum. So there probably is pride relatively. Someone is seeing pride, but not identifying with it as their pride, or not needing it as part of their identity, just seeing pride arise. Now, pride is a funny one. You could say that with anger. I just see anger arise and a resentment arise, jealousy arise. And there's not anyone who is jealous or angry. Pride seems to require ego. So that would be a good question for our teacher.
Milkabali is just also though seeing pride implies there's somebody seeing. So is the seeing just another part of the path of that including that? I don't have words for it, the situation of the pride.
Yeah, I think we can see pride without taking that personally. Go ahead, Soka-san.
There's some teaching in the Tibetan tradition called, the tantric tradition called Vajra pride. Do you have some understanding of that?
I think that's what you were addressing in that video that Shui Wu just posted on Instagram and other places. So that is Vajra being adamantine, just unconditional confidence. It's a pride in that you have the confidence that you're seeing something. And I can't say much more than that.
Thank you.
It is time for us to close. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you.